YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back, and another trade has gone down in the NFL just before the NFL trade deadline. This one including Genard Avery going from the Cleveland Browns to the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm here to break it down and grade both teams for this trade. We've done this with plenty other trades that went down and plenty more to come. Trade deadline is less than 24 hours away. This trade we didn't really expect to happen. You know, we weren't ready for this one. I know the Eagles are mentioned when it comes to a lot of top players that are on the trading block, but this one we did not expect to happen. Interesting one. We'll break it down in just a moment. We have extra content on our Patreon if you like seeing score predictions every single week for every game, updated playoff predictions, and updated NFL mock drafts. All that is included in one package deal on our Patreon. You support us and you gain extra content. Click the link in the description for more info. And then we're trying to get to that 40K subscriber goal at the end of the year. Please help us out by subscribing. Full NFL content, videos like these. We got recaps for games, power rankings, predictions, score predictions, plenty more all year long. To the trade. So a 2021 fourth round pick to the Cleveland Browns for Genard Avery. Avery actually just drafted in 2018 in the fifth round, and he was listed for me as an outside linebacker. And the Browns kind of used him as, in a unique way. They mainly used him as a pass rusher last year, and he was pretty impressive as a rookie. And I actually graded Genard Avery in the third round. That's where I had my grade, but I did have him listed as an outside linebacker. From Memphis. We've seen him line up pretty much everywhere as a linebacker at Memphis, but he blitzed constantly, always blitzing, whether if it's off the edge, inside, and that's where he was most impressive. We've seen him be able to stop the run in cover too, but mainly they used him as, kind of this weapon in the linebacker unit. And I have the comparison of Devon Kennard from the Lions. It's a specific comparison actually, but you see Kennard originally an outside linebacker, and now he kind of more used as an edge rusher off the edge, but they like to use him in blitz package as well. I think very similar players. And so as you can tell, I had Avery a little higher than where he was drafted. So I do like the potential of Avery, but he needs the right defense. I don't know if you can keep moving him around. He needs to find his role, and they have to use him wisely. Eagles seem to be pretty confident that they have the right role for him and that he can help the team. It's weird that the Browns just drafted him last year, and he looked pretty good, and now they're moving on. So my grades for this one will show the Browns first. Browns, I gave a B- to. B- for the Browns, and tough one to grade because it's kind of back and forth here because, like I said, my board, I'm higher on him than where he actually went, so I like his potential. I like his future. When you watch his tape at Memphis, he popped up all over the place. He was he was involved in every play, one of those guys. And I wish I knew what the Eagles were going to do with him. But we know that the Browns weren't using him this year, and they didn't really have a plan for him. And I think people look into that too much. They look into, well, they weren't using him anyways. We got a pick out of it. We got a fourth round pick in 2021. It's a good thing. It kind of looks good if you look at it that way, but I think, not just the Browns, I think a lot of teams kind of trust their coaching staff a little too much. I think Dorsey kind of needs to make his own decisions. I think he considers what the coaching staff wants a little too much, and that's why those jobs should be totally separate. I know the system and the defensive scheme goes into what type of players you draft, but I think they get rid of him because he wants to fit, they want to fit Steve Wilkes' defense a little bit. And everyone's not thrilled with the new Browns staff this year so far. Obviously, they're not giving up on him yet. But just like that, you trade him away and gain a pick so you can draft somebody that fits this system, but maybe in no time, you have different coaching staffs in there, and you could have a pretty good player that could fit in Genard Avery, who you already drafted. So then they're looking in too much who fits specifically, and that kind of tells me they're going to give this coaching staff a good shot. And I guess if you're going to keep them around for a while and you plan to and you're confident you're going to, then I guess you can move on. So you can see there's some good and there's some bad. The B-, a B range, still a good grade, but it's kind of back and forth. Usually that fourth round pick isn't proven. Well, they drafted him with the fifth in the fifth round. They're not really proven until you get him on the field. And I thought he was pretty good last year. So you traded away somewhat of a good player. I didn't really like that. Some people saying, well, they drafted him in the fifth, they got a fourth, so that's a win. To me, it doesn't really work like that because you already see what you got. He's an athletic dude. He's a good football player. I know they weren't using him this year, but it doesn't really work like that. If you're not trading a fifth-round pick for a fourth-round pick, you're trading a player for a fourth-round pick. So you can't really look at it that way. But I still give him a B- because I guess that helps him for the near future, meaning the next 2 years, we'll call it right now. But yeah, the fact that they're kind of just making this move just purely off the current system, the current coaching staff, that kind of gets me a little bit. I hate when teams do that, and I'm not picking on the Browns for that. I think a lot of teams do that. I think quarterback's the worst. Teams won't just rate the quarterbacks in a draft class. Like, I'm going in there and I'm figuring out who is the best quarterback regardless of the system, but I think teams then go in there and, rank them and figure out who's the best in our system, and sometimes that doesn't come out as the actual best quarterback. I'm going to get football players. I'm going to get the best player. Maybe that's just my mentality, but Avery was a hell of a football. He's going to be a hell of a football player. He just needs the right spot, the right home, and we still gotta learn if that's the case. And I gave the Eagles a B+. As you can tell, I like Avery. Genard Avery is a heck of a football player. He can be used in multiple different ways. I had a third-round grade on him. The Eagles traded a 2021 fourth. The reason it's not an A is because there is some risk in that. There's a good amount of risk because he really isn't, even though I like him and I think he's going to be good, he really isn't proven yet because he had one solid season as a rookie in a different system, in Greg Williams' system, and which actually, I think that last year's Brown system is pretty similar to Schwartz, so we'll see how they use them, but I think he can work out. Another positive is that they can use him as a rotation pass rusher, or they can use him as a 4-3 outside linebacker, where I originally thought he would play, and really use him in blitz packages, which I think the Eagles need most. Yeah, their pass rush has been a little disappointing, but you still got Brandon Graham, you still got Derek Barnett out there, and you got some guys that are decent depth guys. That's really where your pressure's coming from. Fletcher Cox, phenomenal player. Maybe not getting quite as many pressures as he did last year, but still a phenomenal player, mainly a run stopper first. So you add a blitz element to it, and I like that a lot. So I'd prefer him there, but we've seen him come off the edge last year and play pretty well. So it's to be determined on that part. But I don't think the Eagles, to make this risky of a trade, I guess it's not crazy risky, but to make it's somewhat risky because you're going off 1 year. I really don't think that's the case. I think they're going off of what they saw in the draft, mainly the pre-draft process, I should say, combined what they saw last year. So I think they're going to go off mainly what they saw on the tape, and they like that he's kind of in the NFL, been in the NFL already, shown something. So they have a plan for him for sure. But again, I think he can help them in multiple different ways. I just don't want them, to play around with it too much. Try to find a role for him. But so they get a B+. Some risk drops it down a little bit, but what keeps it up to a good grade and a B+. Again, I like Avery. Again, third-round grade on him, so I like him. It's just a fourth-round pick. Good thing it's not this year. A little less value next year. That is risky, though, for the reasons I explained. So this is an interesting one because we didn't expect it, and because it's a lot of trades are to be determined. Maybe we can come back to them, but this one, for sure, I want to see how they use Avery. But, the Eagles, people expected them to trade for a big-time corner, maybe just a different big-time defensive player, and they go for Avery, who can become that, but not 100% proven yet, of course. And it's just interesting that he hasn't been playing much this year. So, I kind of going back to the Browns, he hasn't really played at all. And they still get a pretty decent pick. That's why it's this is a tough one to grade because it's kind of back and forth. If you were to ask me before he was traded what Avery would go for and what his value and what I think his value is, those are two different answers. I think he went for about his value. But if I were to predict what he would have went for, I probably would have said a 5th-round pick. Which it was a 4th next year, so I guess pretty similar. But it's pretty interesting. So I guess the Eagles, what I'm saying is maybe the Eagles could have, since the Browns weren't going to use them, given up a 5th and tried to give a little less there, but I'm sure they did. But it's an interesting trade, both in the B range. It's just the only thing I question is the risk on the Eagles' part, but they get a B+, and then a little too much trust in the current coaching staff, maybe, for the Browns. I think Dorsey knows what he got out of Avery. He knows he got a good football player. I think he should have trusted that a little more. I would have hung on to him, but they did get a 4th-round pick, which is solid. So it's not really a losing situation there at all. So again, the Browns get a 2021 4th-round pick. Avery goes to the Eagles. Will he be a pass rusher? Will he be an outside linebacker in their 4-3? Will he be just a weapon in general? They can move him around. They can just put him in they can rotate him as a pass rusher. They can rotate him in for blitz packages. We'll see. Many different ways. We see these big-time players. There's these new type of defensive players these days that are dominant. The guys that we see line up as pass rushers and line up kind of in the inside, maybe they turn him into one of those players. Very interesting. Very, very athletically gifted player, though, I think. So we'll see where he ends up. Interesting one here. More trades should go down. Most of these trades will have their own video like this. There are plenty more of those videos up, more to come. But if we get closer to trade deadline and a bunch of trades go down, we're going to put them all in one video. So that should be a good one as well. We also got our videos for this week of the NFL, Week 9 coming. So hopefully you can join us for that. Hopefully you can subscribe. We much appreciate it. We're trying to get to that 40K goal, so help us out. But that's going to do it for this one. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Goodbye.